Anyway, we are in week 2 of Start the Party. And do you guys remember what we talked about last week? You do? Yes, good job. Good job, Jonathan. I'm very, very impressed, very proud of you. Makes my heart glad. So, we talked about, does anybody remember the scripture we talked about? The Bible verse we were in. You want to try 2 for 2? Okay. John, yes? Do you remember the verse? Even if you don't remember the reference, do you remember what the verse said? Okay. No. I'll start it. Let's see if you guys can finish. Yeah? That's close.
John 9.
Colder. It says, I have come so that you may have and I've come so that you may have life and have it to the full. Thank you. Yes, good job, everybody. Yes. All right. You got most of it. We'll give it to you. I've come so that you can have life and have it to the full, or some translations say have life abundantly. And so we talked about that a little bit last week and how it can start with you. So just to get on the same page with our definitions again, a party, for the purposes of this series, a party is any effort to celebrate, serve, or enjoy others in a way that adds value to life. Right? It's a very technical way of saying have fun and celebrate others. Brings value. Okay. With that in mind, being a party starter simply means you're the one doing those things and inviting others to join in. Right? And that's what we talked about last week. We kind of defined that, talked about how you are the party starter. You have the opportunity, everything that you need in order to be that. Even if you're not like the quote-unquote fun person, you have the ability to bring abundant life to those around you because of the Spirit living inside of you, because Jesus has given you abundant life. When I was 15, so like a year older than some of you 8th graders, I have an August birthday, so I was almost 16, and I knew, because my parents had told me, that if I wanted to get my driver's license when I turned 16, I have to do 2 things. 1, pay for the gas, and pay for the insurance. So really one thing, I have to pay for things. And so that was a motivator for me. I was like, I want to pay for things. So I got a job at Chick-fil-A. And in Chick-fil-A, you guys ever been to Chick-fil-A, by the way? Yeah. What are they known for? What are they known for? God's chicken. What else? Think about the experience when you go there. Good service. Why is it good service?
Because my brother wants that work there.
They have that extra day to take a break because they close on Sunday, yeah. They have something called, yes? They're Christians. I'll take that. That's actually kind of where I'm going. They have a something where they train you. It's called, Kaylee, do you remember since you worked there? Second mile service. Now, did you worked there a number of years after me, so I wonder if they showed the same training videos, but when I started, it was like this, like they took you back to Bible times. They took you back to the passage where Jesus is telling a parable. And back in that time, it was under Roman occupation, and so the Israelites weren't necessarily Roman citizens. Some were, but not all were. But if a Roman soldier came up to you and said, hey, carry all my stuff, you were legally required by the law to carry that soldier's stuff a mile, right? So this training we had at Chick-fil-A for second mile service was a reenactment of this parable. Not really a parable, but this like metaphor that Jesus is drawing. And he said something that we're going to get into today. But in the training video, it depicts all this out. And you know, they're in like, you know, Bible costumes, and there's a Roman guard and his buddy, and he's like, hey, you, Jew, come over here, carry all my stuff. And so, like, gives him all his stuff, which is heavy. You know, things soldier carries shields, swords. That's like solid metal stuff. And so they got to carry it. And he's like, come on, carry it. And the people get there at the end of the mile. It's like, all right, you can get out of here. And the guy's like, no, I'm good. I'll go another mile with you. Right? And the soldier's like, what? Like, did you have to watch this video? And okay. So I had to watch this 5-minute video about this Bible story, which was straight out of my like Sunday school class. It felt like, and so it's Christian background, Christian owned, and so even the operator at the Chick-fil-A that I worked at the time, he was a Christian and all that kind of stuff. So it was very fitting for my upbringing, but also it's like, hey, Chick-fil-A is good because they teach biblical values and they teach what Jesus taught, which was to go the second mile. Now, if you've ever been to Chick-fil-A, you know that you're treated far better at Chick-fil-A than you are at any other restaurant, right? Especially, because I'm a youth minister and I've gone on trips with students like you, I've gone to McDonald's drive-thrus, I've gone through those Taco Bell, KFC combined things, I've ggone through many Chick-fil-A's, and I can tell you, without exception, or like Chick-fil-A is always the best, right? They always get our food the fastest. It always tastes the most fresh. It's just the best, okay? And they didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich, but they implement second mile service, and it's great. They do this, and it makes a huge difference. And you know that if anybody has ever done something for you that you didn't ask for them to do, but they did you a favor anyway, it feels good, doesn't it? You're like, I like that person, right? Because they did something for you without you having to ask them to. They just saw a need, and they went and they met that need without any expectation of reciprocation, without any expectation of like you owing them or anything. They just were like, hey, I'm going to help you out. And it feels good. It feels nice. But some of us, if we're honest, we and myself included, have this temptation to just do the bare minimum, right? How many of you, like, for your class assignments, sometimes you won't even finish all of it? You'll just kind of like do the bare minimum to like get a passing grade and then move on. Anybody? Yeah. I'll raise my hand because I was this way, if I'm honest, right? And then I'd feel guilty, so I'd go back and work harder, and then but I would try to just get by with the bare minimum, right? And the same thing happens in all of us, no matter what you're doing in life. Even those long hours at Chick-fil-A near closing time, I would sometimes want to just do the bare minimum, but I knew, like, my manager was watching me, so I had to, not do the bare minimum, right? And you learn, like, sometimes because whether you're just tired or you don't know what to do, and so you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs or whatever, sometimes we just take the path of least resistance. We just try to get by doing the bare minimum. Sometimes for you, that is the result of fear. You don't want to mess up. So you just do like enough to like go unnoticed, and then you just kind of move on. Or maybe for some of you, it's another reason. Maybe for some of you, it's just laziness. You just don't want to, and so you just do the bare minimum. But no matter the reason, hear me when I say this. When it comes to helping others, I think doing the bare minimum is not good enough. And in order to think through this, I want you to consider this, okay? When you think about yourself and the way that you treat those around you, the way you treat those that you care about and those that you don't, is this the kind of person you want to be? Think about that for yourself. Is this the kind of person I want to be? The kind of person that just skates by, that does the bare minimum? Because I'll tell you something, that played out throughout the rest of your life, it doesn't look good, right? You got to work hard. You got to do your best, not just for you, but as if you're working for the Lord. And if you don't, people will notice. Employers will notice. Your family someday will notice. You're just doing enough to get by. It seems like you don't really care about anybody else except yourself. Is that the kind of person you want to be? For me, it's no, even though I fight that. That's a temptation for everybody. But if we want to be somebody who goes that second mile for someone else on a consistent basis, because we just are really good at caring about those around us, for some of us, that comes naturally. We're just really good at helping others and like trying to just be a helper. Some of us, most of us, are not wired that way. We have to actually work at learning how to care for other people well. And if you want to be that kind of person that cares for others well, we got to evaluate how we see life. And so we're going to read something that Paul said. This is what Paul says in Romans chapter 5, verse 8. He says, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." In other words, right, all throughout the Old Testament, God had passed down the law and the prophets to teach people what they should do. And even then, the people failed all the time. They would either do the bare minimum for the sake of following the rule, or they would just kind of rebel and not do it at all. And Jesus comes, and he not only lives up to the expectation of the law and prophets, but he fulfills it and one-ups it. And then he goes that extra mile, okay? While we were still disobedient, while we were still rebelling, while we were still not living up, while we were still doing the bare minimum, if that, Christ died for us. And some of you need to hear this because you've been beating yourself up over some mistakes that you've made, or whether it's something that's happened to you or whatever, and you feel like, you know what, I got to fix myself up before I try to present myself to God. Right? I know that God might have plans for me, at least that's what I'm told, but there's no way he can use me in this condition, so I've got to clean myself up. I've got to stop this habit or start that habit or whatever it is. And you need to just know, while you were still unrepentant and in your sin, Jesus still died for you. Think about that for a minute. Jesus died for you while you didn't deserve it. You know what that means? It means you don't have to figure it out before you come and give your life to him. You don't have to figure it out before you accept his free gift of grace. He went the second mile for us. He showed the ultimate example of what it means to go the second mile, because while he didn't have to save us, he did. And think about this even. While he didn't have to endure the most shameful and painful death of being tortured and hung on a cross, that was the way he chose to die for us. He didn't make it a quick and painless thing. He suffered on our behalf. He went the extra mile to prove to you and me how much he loves us. And for that, I don't want to be the kind of person that just skates by doing the bare minimum. I want to be the kind of person that reciprocates that in my life towards other people. I'm not always successful, but it's what I want to try. That's what I want to strive for. And I want you guys to have that fire burning inside of you as well, where you're living your life not just in your own bubble for yourself and what you want to do, but for those around you. That you have eyes that see people the way God sees people, that sees the needs that need met, and you can go and do your part to fill them, whatever gifting God has given you. If you've got organizational skills, you can put that to work. If you got compassion, you can go and show and demonstrate what that looks like. You can be literally the face of Jesus to people in the way that you treat them. If you have the gift of serving, if you just are really good at working with your hands and you can rake stuff, you can do yard work and you can help your neighbor across the street, whatever it is, you have something that God has given you that you can either use for your own selfish gain or that you can use going the second mile for somebody around you. What kind of person do you want to be? And this is, I just want to tie that in with the verse that Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 5, where he says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2. Right? And again, this is back when the Israelites were oppressed by the Roman Empire, where they did not have the privileges that you and I get. And yet Jesus said, submit to them. And not only that, do more for them than they ask of you. That's tough. But a party starter does more than what is asked of them. If you want to be the kind of person that starts the party and shares the hope of an abundant life that Jesus has for us, sometimes that means doing more than what's asked of you. I'll tell you something, that'll transform your relationships, it'll transform your family, it'll transform your school, and it'll transform any environment you're around. People notice that kind of stuff. It makes people feel good when other people do stuff for them that they didn't ask for. A party starter does more than what is asked of them. So what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of person that just skates by doing the bare minimum, or do you want to be the kind of person that goes that extra mile, that makes people feel what Jesus has done for them by your actions? What kind of person do you want to be? And then do something you don't have to do. You want to practice that this week? And I say practice because practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes progress. If you want to Learn how to be the kind of person that's good at caring for other people. Do something you don't have to do for somebody this week. Some of you are fresh on summer break and you've got some time on your hands. So I challenge you to find that time at some point this week. Do something that you don't have to do. And then some of you, maybe you just need to let somebody walk with you. Maybe you need somebody else to go that extra mile for you, and you need help. And you can't even think about what it would look like to help others because you're kind of wrapped up in a tough situation. If that's you, share that with your group. Ask for prayer. Ask for help. That's okay. All of us have been there and probably will be there again. So wherever you're at, there's some action steps for you when it comes to this conversation. So remember, a party starter does more than what is asked for them. So as you get ready to go to your groups, what's one way that you can go the extra mile for somebody this week? Right? I mentioned a few ideas a minute ago, but I want you to think in your situation, your life, and your passions, your skill sets, and your giftings. What's something you can do that will go the extra mile for somebody this week? Let me pray, and then you guys will go to your groups.